Hi, everyone, and welcome back. We are joined today by our special guest, Silke Harvey. She is the founder of Female Leaders Rising, and she's coming to us today from Bulgaria. Welcome, Silke.
Thank you, Lisa. Wednesday, 14th December 2022. The day I almost died. A freak accident. A hernia gone bad. By the time I got to the hospital, I was near the end. The doctor told me, if you'd waited another 4 hours, you wouldn't be here. Christmas came and went. A quiet affair. Still weak and recovering, I got a phone call from my mother's neighbors in Germany. They were worried. Something about her didn't feel right. These people had never called me in 30 years, so I didn't hesitate. I got in my car and I drove 18 hours to see Mum. When I walked through her door, I knew Mum was dying. Turns out it was lung cancer. She hadn't told me how sick she was. Blamed her cough on long COVID. Lying is so easy over the phone. She hadn't seen a doctor either. So in the end, it was up to me to get her to the hospital for tests. I called my husband of 31 years to tell him the news. 1 week, 1 month at the most. His reaction was cold, cynical. Well, she was a heavy smoker after all. What did you expect? There was no compassion, not a single word of comfort. Instead, he sent me a message on Facebook. I'm leaving you. I won't be there when you return. That was it. No call, no explanation, no goodbye. Not even to the woman he'd called Mum for 3 decades. And in that instant, a deep, black void opened under my feet. So I did what any daughter would do. I put on a brave face. Said nothing. I lied. I told my mum his father was unwell, that he couldn't travel right now to see her. I sat at her bedside, smiling through heartbreak, so she wouldn't die wondering why he never came. The months that followed were a mess. I returned home after sorting Mum's affairs to be greeted by an empty house. The silence made the loss even more palpable. I got sick. Still physically weak from my operation, I was an easy target for depression. Too sick to work, I survived by selling off his belongings one by one. He wasn't coming back for them anyway. In one brutal moment, I lost everything. My mum, my marriage, my health, my career, my money. Even my so-called friends vanished with him. It was as if my entire life had been wiped out in a single text message. All I had left were my dogs, a house that no longer felt like a home, and a mountain of grief sitting right on my chest like a demon. But something inside me refused to die. My grief counselor thought I should get out of the house for a while. So I took a break. Just me and my dogs, camping alone in the woods. And in that silence, embraced by Mother Nature, I found a spark of my old self, and I made a decision. I sold the house and most of my belongings, packed up what was left, climbed into my old Land Rover, and drove across Europe towards a little homestead in Bulgaria that I'd once bought as a holiday home. I went to start over, alone, from scratch, no safety net. Just me and the dogs and the land. And for the first time in my life, I felt free. Hi, I'm Silke Harvey, speaker, publisher, best-selling author, musician, energy healer, and founder of the global movement Female Leaders Rising. I've walked many paths, from backpacker and indie musician to corporate translator, translation agency owner, energy healer, and publishing house founder. But after losing my health, my mother, my marriage, my career, and my closest friends, all in a single month, I packed my dogs into my Land Rover and drove across a continent to begin again, alone. That was the moment of my rebirth. But it wasn't the beginning of my story. It was only the latest chapter in a life that's always been about finding freedom and creating opportunity where none existed. From that new life, Female Leaders Rising was born, not as a business, but as a movement rooted in every lesson I've lived through, the resilience to rise, the courage to pivot, and the power of women lifting each other into prosperity. And here's what I want you to know. The life you built or were forced into may be gone or no longer fit, but the woman you were always meant to become, she's only just getting started. When I was 16, I dreamed of life at sea. I applied for a maritime career, which was a bold move for a German working class girl. But the answer came back swift and sharp. We don't take women. Not because I wasn't qualified, not because I wasn't capable, but because I was female. That rejection carved something deep inside me, a determination to never let anyone tell me what I could or couldn't be. So I did the only thing that made sense to me. I hit the road. I backpacked across Europe on cheap bus and train tickets, living on next to nothing, chasing freedom and the horizon. Somewhere between one country and the next, I found music. At 19, in the UK, I met the man who would become my husband. Together, we formed a rock and roll band. He was the frontman. I was the bass player, the backing vocalist, the band manager. The one behind the scenes keeping it all together, in other words. I built an indie record label, got grants from the Prince's Trust, and even got us online in 1995, where most people didn't even know what a website was. We played the Millennium Dome, worked with musical legends like Albert Lee, and ran our band as a business before creative entrepreneur was even a term. Those years taught me something essential. Freedom is not given. It's built, note by note, gig by gig, decision by decision. But life has a rhythm of its own. By my late 30s, illness stopped the music. He couldn't tour anymore. So I pivoted again from musician to translator. I was hired at KPMG European headquarters purely on skill, no official degree. Later, I started my own translation agency, running a small global business from my living room. But another side of me was awakening. I became a Reiki master, trained in animal healing, chakra dancing, and creative visualization, and later became a Reiki drum practitioner as well. I performed at UK festivals, facilitated workshops, held sacred women's circles, and worked with private clients to help them reconnect to their energy, their bodies, and their purpose. It was magic. Then came 2020, and like for many of us, the world still. I took my work online. Women still needed support, and so the Inner Hippie Club was born, an online sanctuary for women craving spiritual connection, personal growth, and feminine power. That eventually led to Inner Hippie Books, a publishing house for amazing women with extraordinary stories. 2 Amazon #1 bestsellers followed. But then life fell apart. At first, I thought I was just grieving my mom. But then I realized I was grieving my entire life. And what I've discovered since is this. Taking action while still healing your own design. These aren't just coping mechanisms, they are path to power. You are allowed to outgrow the life you build. Let me repeat that. You are allowed to outgrow the life you build. When I returned to that empty house, I didn't just feel loss. I felt disorientation. Who was I? Without all the roles I'd wrapped myself in. Wife, daughter, businesswoman. Good old Silke who fixes everything for everyone. For so long, I'd defined myself by what I did for others. And when it was gone, I mistook that emptiness for failure. But it wasn't failure. It was evolution. You are allowed to outgrow the life you once fought so hard to build. The roles that once defined you may have served you, but they don't have to define your future. Outgrowing is not betrayal, it's becoming. And it's not just me. According to the American Psychological Association, women who transition out of caregiving for children, partners, or the elderly parents often face profound identity loss and depression. We've been taught that our worth is in service. So when the service ends, we vanish. But it doesn't have to be that way. You don't have to wait to heal. We're taught that healing must come before action, that we must be ready before we move. But I wasn't ready when I packed my dogs and my grief into that old Land Rover. I wasn't healed. I was broken. I was raw. And I was scared. But I moved anyway. Because healing doesn't come before action. It comes because of it. Every mile I drove, every small, imperfect step forward gave me a piece of myself back. You don't have to heal to move. You heal because you move. And science backs this up. According to research from the American Psychological Association, resilience isn't something you have before the crisis. It's something you build inside the crisis. Small acts of agency, even something as simple as making a decision, are shown to reduce trauma symptoms and build confidence in long-term recovery. Freedom isn't found, it is built. Today, I live on a homestead in rural Bulgaria. I grow food. I sing songs. I run a global movement from my kitchen table. It didn't just happen. I built it. And that's what Female Leaders Rising is about, building freedom from the ground up, one action at a time. You don't need permission. You don't need a 5-year plan. You don't need to be fixed before you begin. You just need to begin with what you have right now, from where you are. Loss is not the end. It's a clearing. But in our culture, women often go unseen in their grief. According to the World Health Organization, women aged 55 to 74 have the highest rate of untreated depression globally. And yet, they are the least likely to seek help. often because they're still functioning, still showing up, still doing the invisible labor of life. The Pew Research Center reports that in the past 25 years, divorce rates for people over 50 have doubled, with women far more likely to experience financial instability afterwards. Add to that the care gap. According to the OECD, women still perform 75% of all unpaid care work globally. That means when a caregiving role ends, whether through children growing up or parents passing on, many women are left with nothing. No job history, no pension, no safety net, and no roadmap forward. But here's what I want every woman listening to remember. You are not your roles. You are not your relationships. You are not your pain. You are the person who survived it. And from that place, you can rebuild. Not by going back, but by going forward into something entirely new. Some people call it starting from scratch. I call it starting from wisdom. Starting over isn't weakness. It's courage. It's vision. It's leadership. A 2022 study from the Center for Women's Entrepreneurship found that 62% of women who started business over the age of 50 did so because they were pushed out of traditional careers or experienced major life transitions, like divorce, illness, or caregiving loss. And guess what? These women were statistically more likely to succeed than younger founders. Why? Because they brought life experience, emotional resilience, and a strong sense of purpose to their work. When a woman reclaims her direction later in life, she's not naive. She's focused. She's resourceful. She's done performing, and she's ready to lead. So if you're starting over, you're not behind, you are right on time. When women lead, prosperity grows. But this isn't just about personal growth, it's about collective impact. Because when women rise, prosperity doesn't stay personal, it spreads. The World Bank reports that women reinvest up to 90% of their income into their families and communities, compared to just 30 to 40% for men. The United Nations estimates that if women had equal access to financial tools, resources, and education, we could lift 150 million people out of hunger. And according to McKinsey and Company, closing the global gender gap in workforce participation could add $12 trillion to the global economy. And yet, only 2.3% of venture capital goes to women-led startups. Only 1 in 4 global leaders is female. And still today, in many places, a woman needs her husband's permission to start a business or open a bank account. Let that sink in. We cannot keep pretending that the playing field is level. But what we can do is build new fields and invite women to lead them. Because when women are trusted with power, money, and visibility, we don't just grow our own lives, we grow entire communities. And this is why I created Female Leaders Rising. It's not a program, it's not a membership, it's a platform and an ecosystem that reflects everything I've lived and learned, that women don't need saving, they need space. Space to speak, space to lead, space to build something bigger than themselves. We amplify women's voices through books, articles, podcasts, and television, and we create sacred spaces through global retreats. Spaces not just for healing, but for deep strategic reinvention. And soon we launched the most ambitious projects of all, Leadership at Sea. Remember when I told you that at 16 I was turned down for a maritime career because I was a girl? Well, I never forgot. And now, decades later, I'm buying that ship myself. A tall ship, fully crewed by women, built to train the next generation of leaders and offer maritime career paths to women who never even knew that door existed. Because this isn't just about me fulfilling an old dream. It's about refusing to let that door stay closed for the next girl who dares to knock. So, if you're sitting in the rubble of a life that no longer fits, or a life that was forced on you, if you've lost roles, titles, relationships, or direction, I want you to know you are not broken. You are not too old. You are not too young. And you are not too late. You are simply standing at a crossroads. And the woman waiting on the other side, she isn't asking for perfection. She's asking for permission. Permission to feel joy. Permission to lead from truth. Permission to rise. And if I, a woman who lost everything, can build a life more soul-aligned than anything that came before, then so can you. This is your invitation. If something in you whispers, it's time, then let's stay connected. I believe in the power of women coming together to support, uplift, and rise, not alone, but side by side. If my story resonated with you, if you felt the quiet ache of outgrowing your old life, if you're standing at your own crossroads, I'd love to hear from you. Because your story matters, your voice matters, and this rising, it's not just mine, it's ours. Find me after the talk and come say hello online. Let's keep the conversation going. So for 31 years, music was something I shared with my husband. He was the front man, the star. I was the bass player, the backing vocalist, the band manager, the one behind the scenes. After the split, I couldn't play. Music belonged to the past. That changed one night when I brought my ukulele to a jam session. I hadn't planned to play, but I did. And by the end, the whole room was singing with me. And that moment gave me the courage to sing again. I wrote a song about me. It's called One Woman and Her Dog. I recorded it on my own in the very studio we used to share. But this time, I wasn't in the background. I was the voice. I was the songwriter. I was the whole damn song. That's what freedom sounds like. And now I'd love to share that freedom with you. London, Paris, Barcelona, Rome and Athens too. Here today and gone tomorrow, we keep driving through. Frunza, Frankie, Wendy, Silke, 4 girls in a van. Summer, sunshine, wind and hair, beach and southern sand. We all were one thing in common, we once were all ditched. Ditched by husband, ditched by people, leaving us sad and sing. But we got ourselves together, little family. Now we're traveling the world, there's just so much to see. One woman and her dog. 4 sisters. One woman and her dog. In a Land Rover. So if you find yourself in a bit of a mess, don't despair and keep the faith, life loves you nonetheless. Keep your head up and walk tall under the sun. Life is what you make of it as long as you have fun. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. One woman and her dogs, 4 sisters. One woman and her dogs in a Land Rover. One woman and her dogs, 4 sisters. One woman and her dog in a Land Rover. Thank you for watching. You can contact me on LinkedIn at Silke/Harvey, on Facebook at Silke.Harvey, and on femaleleadersrising.com. Blessed be.
Very wonderful. Thank you, Silke. Na 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 na. I was singing along.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
That went well, I hope.
Well, yeah, that went well. All right, we'll be right back. Stay with me, Silke. We'll be right back with Katanya Trent.
Okay.